Hi, this is chapter 27, and some of you have already finished this. We're going back over it and we're answering questions about it. So first off, you need to look over the questions that are in front of you on the sheet that I gave you so you know what you're looking for while we're doing the read aloud. There will be some questions that you'll answer that aren't exactly something you could just pick out of the story, but are going to be ones where you're writing and you're thinking a little more. But for the ones that you can just find right away, just be listening closely. And so we are in the hall where Ares is being banished, potentially, because he was bonded with Henry, who was a traitor. So let's get started on chapter 27. There was anger and argument and a lot of talk about the law, but in the end, they couldn't banish Ares. The fact that Gregor bonded with the bat carried more weight than he had expected. One old man still dug furiously through his scrolls until Vicus said to him, "Oh, stop rattling your skins. We clearly have no precedent for this." Gregor turned to his new bat. "Well, I probably won't be here much longer." "It matters not," said Ares. "While I have lied, I will be here always for you." As soon as things settled down, Gregor made a beeline for the hospital. He braced himself before entering his dad's room, fearing he might have relapsed. But when he went in, a happy scene awaited him. His dad was sitting up in bed, laughing as Boots tried to feed him cookies. "Hey, Dad," he said with a smile. "Oh, Gregor," said his dad, beaming at him. His dad held out his arms, and Gregor rushed into them and held on tightly. He could have stayed there forever, but Boots was tugging on them. "No, Gecko. Dada eat cookie," she said. "The nurse told her to make me eat, and she takes her job very seriously," said his dad with a smile. His father, with a smile. "You feel okay?" asked Gregor, not letting go. "Oh, a few square meals, I'll be as good as new," said his dad. They both knew it wasn't that simple. Life would never be the same again, but they would have their life back, and they would have it together. Gregor spent the next few hours just hanging out with his dad, Boots, and Temp, who came in to check on the princess. He wouldn't have asked his dad about his ordeal, but he seemed eager to talk. "That night, the night I fell, I couldn't sleep. I went down to the laundry room to play a little saxophone. I didn't want to wake anybody." "We fell from there too," said Gregor, "through the air duct." "Right. The metal grate just started banging up and down out of nowhere," said his dad. "When I went to check it out, I got sucked right down here. See, they have this strange phenomenon with the air currents." And his dad went on for 20 minutes about the scientific aspects of the current. Gregor didn't know what he was talking about, but it was great to just listen to him. "I was in Regalia for a couple of weeks, and I was just going crazy missing you all. So one night I tried to escape with a couple of flashlights and a BB gun I found in the museum. Rats got me before I made it to the waterway," said his dad, shaking his head. "How come they let you live?" asked Gregor. "It wasn't me, it was the gun. After I ran out of ammo, they closed in on me. One of them asked about the gun, so I just started talking to Bluestreak about it. I convinced them I could make them, so they decided to keep me alive. I spent my time making weapons that I could use, but that fell apart when the rats touched them. A crossbow, a catapult, a battering ram. Lucky thing you showed up when you did. I think they were beginning to suspect I was never going to make them anything that worked twice," said his dad. "I don't know how you stood it," said Gregor. "I just never stopped believing I'd get home again," said his dad. A cloud came over him, and he had a lot of trouble getting the next question out. "So, how's your mom?" "Probably not too good right now," said Gregor, "but she'll be fine once we get you back." His dad nodded. "And you?" Gregor didn't talk about any of the bad stuff, just the easy stuff. He told his dad about track and school and playing his saxophone at Carnegie Hall. He never mentioned spiders or rats, or what he'd been through since his dad had disappeared. They spent the afternoon playing with Boots, trying to make each other eat, and often, without any particular reason, reaching out to touch each other. Dulcet showed up eventually and insisted Boots and his dad needed rest, so Gregor wandered off into the palace, feeling happier than he had in 2 years, 7 months, and he no longer cared how many days. He was done with the rule now, for good. Even if times got bad, he would never again deny himself the possibility that the future might be happy even if the present was painful. He would allow himself dreams. As he was making his way back to his bed, he passed the room he'd been taken to as a prisoner the night he tried to escape Regalia. Vicus was sitting at the table alone, surrounded by piles of scrolls and maps. His face lit up when he saw Gregor, and he waved him into the chamber. "Come, come. We've not yet spoken since your arrival," he said eagerly. "How does your father?" "Better, much better," said Gregor, sitting across from Vicus. "And the princess?" said Vicus with a smile. "She's good. No more fever," said Gregor. For a minute they just sat there, not sure where to begin. "So, warrior, you leaped," said Vicus. "Yes, I did," said Gregor, grinning. "Lucky Ares was there." "Lucky for our race too," said Vicus. "Lucky for us all. Know you the rats are in retreat?" "Marith told me," said Gregor. "I believe the war will soon be at an end," said Vicus. "The rats have begun to battle one another for their throne." "What about Ripbride?" said Gregor. "I have heard from him. He's assembling a party of rats, sympathetic to his cause, in the Dead Land. It will not be an easy task to take leadership of the rats. He must first convince them that peace is desirable, and that will be a long struggle." "Still, he is not an easy rat to ignore," said Vicus. "I'll say," said Gregor, "even the other rats are afraid to fight him." "With good reason. No one can defend themselves against him," said Vicus. "Oh, that reminds me. I have something for you. Several times on the journey you made mention of your lack of a sword. The council asked me to present you with this." Vicus reached beneath the table and brought out a long object wrapped in very thick silk. Gregor unrolled it and found a stunningly beautiful sword studded with jewels. "It belonged to Bartholomew of Sandwich himself. It is the wish of my people that you accept it," said Vicus. "I can't take this," said Gregor. "I mean, it's too much, and besides, my mom won't even let me have a pocket knife." This was true. On Gregor's 10th birthday, his uncle had sent him a pocket knife with about 15 attachments, and his mom had put it away until he was 21. "I see," said Vicus. He was watching Gregor carefully. "Perhaps if your father kept it for you, she would allow it?" "Maybe, but there's another thing," said Gregor. He didn't know how to say the other thing, and it was the main reason he didn't want to touch the object in front of him. It had to do with Tick and Treeflex and Gox. It had to do with all the creatures he'd seen lying motionless on his trip back. It even had to do with Henry and the rats. Maybe he just wasn't smart enough, or maybe he just didn't understand, but it seemed to Gregor that there must have been some way to fix things so that everybody hadn't ended up dead. "I pretended to be the warrior so I could get my dad, but I don't want to be a warrior," said Gregor. "I want to be like you." "I have fought in many battles, Gregor," said Vicus cautiously. "I know, but you don't go looking for them. You try to work things out every other way you can think of first, even with the spiders. And Ripbride," said Gregor, "even when people think you're wrong, you keep trying." "Well then, Gregor, I know the gift I wish to give you, but you can only find it yourself," said Vicus. "What is it?" said Gregor. "Hope," said Vicus. "There are times it will be very hard to find. Times when it will be much easier to choose hate instead, but if you want to find peace, you must first be able to hope it is possible." "You don't think I can do that?" said Gregor. "On the contrary, I have great hope that you can," said Vicus with a smile. Gregor slid the sword back across the table to him. "Tell them thanks, but no thanks. You can imagine how happy I am to deliver that message." Said Vicus, "and now you must rest. You have a journey tomorrow." "I do? Where?" "Not back to the Deadlands," said Gregor, feeling a little ill. "No, I think it's time we send you home," said Vicus. They put a bed in his dad's room that night so he and Boots could sleep close by. Now that he was going home, Gregor began to let thoughts of Lizzie and his grandma, and most of all, his mom, come back into his head. Would they still be okay? When he got back, he remembered his talk with Vicus and tried to hope for the best. As soon as his dad and Boots had woken, they were taken to the dock where Gregor made his escape the first night. A group of Underlanders had assembled to see them off. Aries will take you to the portal above the waterways, said Vicus. It will be a short distance from there to your home. Mareth pressed a handful of paper into his hand. He realized it was money. I took it from the museum. Vicus said you may need it to travel in the overland. Thanks, said Gregor. He wondered exactly where the waterway gateway was in relation to his apartment. He guessed he'd find out soon enough. The way is safe now, but do not tarry. As you know, things can shift quickly in the Underland, said Solivet. Gregor suddenly realized he would never see these people again. He was surprised by how much he would miss them. They'd been through a lot together. He hugged everybody goodbye, and when he came to Luxa, he thought maybe he should just shake her hand, but he went ahead and hugged her anyway. She actually gave him a hug back. It was a little stiff, but then she was the queen. Well, so if you're ever in the Overland, drop by, said Gregor. Perhaps we shall see you here again someday, said Luxa. Oh, I don't know. My mom's probably going to ground me for the rest of my life just to keep me safe, said Gregor. What means this, ground, you asked, Luxa. Never let me leave the apartment, said Gregor. This is not what it says in the Prophecy of Bane, said Luxa thoughtfully. What's that? Asked Gregor, feeling panic rise up in him. Did Vicus not tell you? It follows the Prophecy of Grace, said Luxa. But I'm not in it, am I? I mean, I'm not, right, Vicus? Said Gregor. You must depart directly if you mean to catch the current, said Vicus, slipping the backpack with Boots onto his shoulders and leading him to Ares, who was already carrying his dad. What are you telling me? What's the Prophecy of Bane? Insisted Gregor as he felt himself lifted onto Ares' back. Oh, that, said Vicus dismissively. That is very vague. No one has been able to explain it for centuries. Fly you high, Gregor the Overlander. Vicus gave Ares a sign, and he spread his wings. What is it, though? What does it say? Shouted Gregor as they rose into the air. Bye-bye, Tem. See you soon, said Boots, waving cheerfully. No, Boots, no, we're not coming back, said Gregor. The last thing Gregor saw as they left the palace was Vicus waving. He was not sure, but he thought he heard the old man say, see you soon. Down the river he went again, but this time he was flying over the foaming water on Ares' strong back. They soon reached the beach where he had encountered Fangor and Shed. He caught a glimpse of the blackened ground where the fire had been. 10 minutes later, the river fed into what was either a sea or the biggest lake Gregor had ever seen. Giant waves rolled across the water's surface and crashed onto rocky beaches. A pair of guards on bats appeared and escorted them over the water. Gregor didn't see any rats around, but who knew what else might be down here looking for a meal? He caught a glimpse of a 20-foot spiked tail as some creature flipped it out of the waves and then dove. Not even going to ask, he thought. The guards held their positions as Ares began to ascend into a vast stone cone. At its base, it may have been a couple miles in diameter. Oh my, okay, there we go. A strange misty wind seemed to be blowing them upward. Must be the currents, thought Gregor. Ares flew in tighter and tighter circles as they ascended. He had to close his wings to squeeze through the opening at the top. Suddenly they were zipping through tunnels that looked familiar. They were not built of stone but of concrete, so Gregor knew they must almost be home. The bat landed on a deserted stairway and nodded his head upward. I cannot go farther, said Ares. This is your way home. Fly you high, Gregor the Overlander. Fly you high, Ares, said Gregor. His hand wrapped tightly around Ares' claw for a moment. Then he let go. The bat vanished in the darkness. Gregor had to help his dad up a long flight of stairs. There was a stone slab in the ceiling at the top. When Gregor pushed it aside, a wave of fresh air hit his face. He pulled himself out, and his fingers found grass. Oh, man, he said, hurrying to help his dad out. Oh, man, look. Moon, said Boots, happily pointing into the sky. Yes, moon, little girl. Look, Dad, it's the moon. His dad was too winded by the climb to answer. For a few minutes they just sat on the grass, staring up at the beauty of the night sky. Gregor looked around and realized by the skyline that they were in Central Park. He could hear the traffic just below a row of trees. He slid the stone slab back in place and helped his dad up. Come on, let's grab a cab. Go see Mama. Mama, Boots? He asked. Yes, said Boots emphatically. Go see Mama. It must have been very late. Hardly anyone was on the streets, but a few restaurants were still open. It was just as well, since they made a funny sight, all dressed in their Underland clothes. Gregor flagged down a cab, and they piled into the back seat. The driver either didn't notice or didn't care how they looked. He'd probably seen everything. Gregor pressed his face against the window, drinking in the buildings, the cars, and the lights. Oh, those beautiful lights. It seemed to take no time